What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this MMA 12 fight slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future MMA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. And now let's go ahead and dive right into this MMA 12 fight slate, guys, here with Kevin as usual. And Kevin, let's go ahead and go over last week's slate and then jump right into this 12 fight slate.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an interesting one, Matt. But yeah, well, let's go over last week's success first off. So excuse me. This last week was Fight Night, Vittori versus Holland. So fun fact, I was hosting that wrestling tournament all day Saturday. It went great, by the way. Really big tournament. We finished top 10 in all of New England. So, yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Ran well by Spartan. You know the guy who Spartan races?
No, I don't.
You know her Spartan races?
No.
Wow. Like those mud runners and all those crap. Okay, that's true. Well, yeah. I'm sure most reviewers do. It was run by the guy who owns Spartan, so it was pretty fun. Good time. But anyway, I was there working all day. Couldn't check my phone. And I had Aaron Blanchfield in there, who didn't fight. As the commission canceled the fight right after Dumont didn't make weight. I might have had time to look at it even before then. I don't even know. I was so in wrestling mode. I couldn't check, but that was tough because
actually tell me you cashed.
Oh yeah, I cashed in tourney and did pretty damn well before that. So I was like, that sucks. And I really thought she had a chance to win. And she was my top punt. I mean, she was a punt, so she could have easily done, trash and
near her zero score, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say she could have got 3 points. So it doesn't matter. But anyway, that just sucked. Stupid, but it is what it is. I had plenty of time to make changes. That one was on me. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good night for us, Matt. Right off the rip, I said Impa was red at his price, and I'm curious, did he make the optimal?
Impa did not. No,
I didn't think so. So that is why I red lighted him. He did pretty well. And I like Impa as a whole, but his price tag was just way too much for me, and this is why, especially on a slate that big. Next was Jung Da-un, who made my love list and put on a takedown clinic against William Knight. So that was nice seeing, as I had 100% exposure of that fight. Did he make optimal?
He did. He was the second highest, actually, overall.
Beautiful. Yeah, he smoked. He did great. So that was a great call by us. I was happy about that. But next was Saldana and Griffin. I said it was a live fight, and it seemed okay. I didn't watch the fight. Obviously, I was working, like I said. Griffin won. Griffin didn't win, but it looked like he did on paper. I was just looking at the stats, so I didn't watch the fight, like I said. But if anybody listening watched that fight, just tell me how it went. I'm curious in the comments. Just let me know what happened, because I looked at the fight stats, and I'm curious because I don't really understand how Griffin lost. It seemed like he smoked him in the grappling department, and it was pretty even striking. So I'm curious.
Saldana barely outscored him with the win. So
that's what I'm saying. That's why it just seemed like there was a little bit of a robbery there. I don't know. I didn't watch the fight, but love to hear from.
They both scored like poop, but still.
Yeah, they did. But I would love to hear from the fight fans. So what did they score? What did
Honestly, it was all right. It was 4 point. It was a 4-point difference. When that's what the win. Griffin scored 50. 0.74 and Saldana scored 54.
Which is obviously it's bad. It's not good, but 80's
right.
Not the worst thing in the world. Next, I said I love Jack Shore, and he had a good day in the office. I'm guessing he wasn't optimal, Matt.
He was not optimal just because of his price point.
Yeah, but he did pretty good. He got 6 takedowns, 8.7K, pretty damn good. I expressed my worry for DeCastro, especially at a silly price tag. I am glad I ended up fading him for the most part. I think it was a sharp fade. That being said, I wish I had a lot more Donho, because I'm sure you're going to tell me he made the optimal net.
Yes. Let me see. Donho made that 6,800. Yeah, 105.2. Yep.
Yep, he was probably the best person on the slate. Just at the pricing.
Best value, yeah.
Yeah, best value. I said the next fight of Makdessi and Ignacio had some sneaky potential, but I didn't think it was going to be a banger. I'll be honest, it seemed like a pretty big banger. It was 110 sig strikes, so that was interesting. One of the more surprising ones, but I did say Makdessi was live as a vet taking on a newcomer. Did Makdessi make the optimal?
Makdessi did make the optimal, and he was the last one too, just because of his price point, $7,300. 84.19 was the lowest scoring for what it's worth.
Yeah, I figured just because of his price. Was he 7,300?
Yep.
So that makes sense. Matus, I marked green in the next one for his wrestling ability, and he did get 2 takedowns, but more importantly, got the finish early in the second round. How did he score, Matus?
Matus did not score in the optimal. If I could find him.
It's a little pricey.
How much do you know exactly?
I want to say 9 something.
Oh, it's 9-2.
How much?
Yeah.
9-2.
Oh wait, he did make it. Yep.
Okay.
107.
Yeah, I know he did pretty good. Beautiful. So let's go. So yeah, they did pretty good there. Selecki was green for me in the next fight and did beat Miller, but I said Miller was going to be tough to put away, and we saw that. So I don't think Selecki cleared his price point by any means.
No.
Rodriguez was a love lister, and he smoked Perry, and I was happy to see that because that was a tough one. That was one that I had to kind of make a call on. I was like, I'll throw him in the love list. I do like him, and he had 136 strikes. So that was good. How do you score?
Our chat was roasting Perry at the end of that.
Really, Mike Perry?
Yeah.
It happens. I love Mike Perry.
He has a personality that you love or hate. I'm assuming from what I saw from the chat. So, yeah.
Oh, just some people love him. Some people. I love him. I love Mike Perry.
Right.
He's a national treasure.
Yeah. Well, our chat. Just FYI, don't say that in our chat. That's what they call you, TJ Kevin.
Oh, I see why people hate him. Don't get me wrong. He's an absolute freaking idiot, but he's funny. Did Rodriguez make the optimal? Though?
Rodriguez did not make the optimal, but he scored. Well, he scored 92. Sorry, 84.
Okay.
He was right in the cusp. It was the only reason Makdessi made it over him was because of his price point. Yep.
It's pretty close. I'm surprised he didn't. Sometimes the stat lines, does it show significant strikes?
I don't know if it shows it this early. Let me check. We were looking at Rodriguez, right? Yeah. Vittori. Yeah, it does. It shows you were looking for 6 strikes.
Yep.
235 thrown, 129 landed.
Okay, so that's what they scored him at. Okay, cool. Never mind. So yeah, no, that was on. I just figured he'd score higher with that many because I had him at 136 strikes, and I thought he would have scored better. But it is what it is. It's not bad. I like Dern. I said she had a real shot as the underdog, and she got the job done with a first round sub. I'm assuming Dern made the optimal.
Absolutely, 110.8.
Let's go. Marquez also made my love list and got a second round sub, putting it on Alvey, and that was awesome too. Did he make the optimal? Because he put a whooping on him before.
Marquez did not make it with 105.0, and again, just because of the price point, and we always talk about this, very, very pricey over 9K.
Yep, pricing is everything. Look at, like I said, Impa smashed, but too expensive.
Right.
Allen was another GPP love lister, and he did win as the underdog, though he didn't score too great. But I did have faith in him as the underdog. Lastly, I said Vittori was core, and he lit all in the hell up, bro. Like you read about. So what did Vittori score?
Yeah, scored the most on the slate, 156.
That's a joke, bro. That's so.
I think it's the most he's ever scored. Yep, it's the most he's ever scored. But it was a 5-rounder.
I cashed as well. I had him. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people did, but that that's ridiculous. 156.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna keep it 100 like I do every single time here. When we do bad, I say we do bad. I think we crushed this night, Matt. I'm just looking up and down. I think we did really good.
Yeah, just the FYI before we move any further, Kevin, we had a comment in the YouTube section. He put the timestamp and said, by the way, the video starts after this, and he's talking about this little segment where we covered the last slate. And I said, well, this is very useful information for those who are looking to get better at DFS. And he's like, this is horrible, and plus I hate that your guy always brags about doing the best. And it was funny because in that video you talked about how we were completely off in the slate, 100%. And I was just like,
I've had a lot of people,
did you? Well, you clearly didn't watch it because he talked about how bad he did in the previous slate. So anyway, if you're watching this video, get roasted. Okay.
Get roasted, boom, roasted. We have a lot of people. I've actually seen a lot of people comment out there. Thought it was refreshing how we talk about that because I know DFS in this world, man, in this space, we know a lot of people are like, we do good every week. I'm like, if you're doing good every week, you'd have a mansion. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? I see you're not living in a mansion.
No,
like,
the Sharks aren't doing good every week. No,
exactly. It's the goal is to be profitable. You know what I mean? If you're winning at a 70% click, you're doing great.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, like I said, like we talked about last video, I got lit up. I was like, dude, I was awful. I finished I think it's like a 10,000 person contest. I was like 9,563. Like it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
But we lit this one up, so I'm not afraid to say we did good either.
And again, it's about being profitable in the long run. It's not about being profitable every slate. A majority of people lose more often than not in GPPs. It's about taking them down, and when you do, you're covering your price point and your winnings from the last slate.
Not cash in a row, man.
And then you took a couple down
in a $40 contest, and I was like, well, that covers me for the next 3 months.
Exactly. So, and you're just looking for that big win, and we talk about it all the time. So anyway, just wanted to get that point out there. If you're watching this video, we do talk about our losses too.
And you're trash. So anyway, moving on, we have Austin Hubbard versus Dakota Bush. First fight of the slate is an interesting one off the bat. Had some opponent changes late. Bush is a good wrestler and is making his UFC debut. Has decent finish ability, but I will honestly say it is hard to gauge his ability, especially on such a short notice fight. Austin Hubbard, 50-50 UFC guy. I'll be honest, Matt, for me, he's most famous, and I remember Austin Hubbard most with that name association when he fought Max Roscoff. I don't know if you remember that. Max quit between rounds. He was just like, I'm done. And they were like, what? And he's like, nah, I'm good. And that was it. And that was a really weird fight just to watch as a fan. But this is a tough fight overall to gauge. One of the tougher ones on the card. I would think both guys are live here. I might throw some darts. I don't want to overexpose. I would say yellow for both. Dakota Bush, like I said, decent wrestler. Could bring it to Hubbard. I think Roscoff looked okay against Hubbard before he quit, which was weird. It was like, I think it was like 1 round to 1 round, and he quit in the third, something like that. It's a close fight. Hubbard has been submitted a couple times, so that's where Bush makes most of his money. So I don't know. I think it's live. I don't want to like fade this, but I'm just going to like throw a couple darts.
Okay. Ownership on this is very, very low. Before I get over to their specific ownership, I'm going to go over the benchmark percentage for anybody watching. It's the top 6. Those are usually the cash viable ownerships, and then anything below is going to be more GPP. So benchmark for this slate is 31.1% ownership. Everything below, like I said, GPP options. And this wasn't the first fight on the slate, Kevin. For me, it was actually the 10th, but it's probably
it might have got moved up. Right. So what happened was this is the last one announced.
Okay.
So because of the opponent change and stuff, so I just put it as the last one. It might, or the first fight. It might not be the first fight.
Okay, it's the 10th. It's not far off. But anyway, 18.5% on Bush, and then on Hubbard, it's 15.7%. So basically, non-ownership on both of these guys. Bush is actually higher owned at $7,300 for what it's worth. But they're still both very low.
Yeah. This one that's the pricing too. This was the last one to get DraftKings pricing, so I just throw it at the bottom. Okay. But that makes sense. Yeah, fight order doesn't really matter too much, obviously. But yeah, that's interesting. It makes sense to me, Matt. That's not a surprise to me that Bush is carrying more ownership. Hubbard can be beat. Bush it looks like a good skill set to do so.
Yeah.
But Hubbard's got some experience on him, and he's just a little bit of a decisionator in his UFC.
It looks like it.
Before that, you see a lot of people like that, Matt. Knock out some tuna cans in the other leagues. They submit them, and then they get to the UFC, and it's like, how do you go from 12 wins, 11 finishes to a 6 decision streak or something? It's just like, tougher competition, man. It's tougher to put these dudes away. Tuned up, ready to go. But yeah, live fight. Let's move on to the next one. We got Tony Gravely versus Anthony Burchak. Very expensive one. This kind of reminds me of Impa, with probably a better finish chance. But Tony Gravely, he's a UFC newcomer with 1 win by split decision and a loss. So it's almost like it's scary. He also has as many decisions in his career as finishes. This is 9,400.
Yeah.
It's tough. Burchak looked about as bad as you can in your UFC debut, so maybe that's swinging it a little. But we gotta make some choices, Matt, because even with a minus 180 finish chance, which is pretty damn high, I'm probably going to avoid Gravely. I would say mark both yellow. I'll
tell you why I don't hate it in a second.
Ownership, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Both guys yellow, as a fade could kill you here. But I personally won't take Gravely, and probably not too much Burchak either, and just hope Gravely wins in a pedestrian fashion as price tag, like Impa did last week.
We just saw it.
Yeah, we just saw it. And same with like DeCastro, just kind of hope for that. That went well. You always want, that's the thing with DeCastro. I mean, you wanted Impa to win just like he did. Perfect. You don't want the underdog to starch the, you know what I mean? Like, then that dude 6,800 is obviously going to make the optimal. That's what happened with the Jorgen fight. But I don't know. I'll say this. Another reason I'm marking this yellow is Gravely, for the most part, is one of the better pay-up options on the slate. Believe it or not, the pay-up options get pretty bad on the slate. It's a couple of good ones.
That explains it.
That's another reason I'm like, you know what, you gotta like, unless or you just want to take the approach like this is one of those slates where you really don't touch over 9,000, you leave a lot of money on the table, and it could be one of those. I don't know.
How many times have we seen it? More often than not.
Seen it a lot. How much money have we left on the table and seen, like,
right?
It takes balls to leave. Like, I've left 700 on the table. I've left 1,100 on the table. But there are some slates
where 3,000 makes the optimal.
3,000. I will be honest, Matt. I rarely have the balls to do that.
Yeah,
I'm trying to cash first and not think about like what ifs. But I'm telling you, man, it happens. It friggin' happens.
There was a stat, and I read this on another MMA, breakdown that we did. Nearly 76% of players in big GPP tournaments, I'm talking about the biggest one on the MMA slate, leave 49,500 or less for every single one of their lineups. So you have already beat 24% of the field if you're leaving more than $500 if it is the optimal. Another way to gain the edge.
Yep, that's crazy.
Yeah. By the way, Gravely, if you fade him and he's not one of the optimal guys, you're beating nearly half the field. Tony Gravely, 47.3% ownership, the second highest on the slate, Kevin. So that is huge. And then Burchak, am I saying it right? Burchak. Okay. 12.3%, so virtually no ownership whatsoever.
That's crazy. I mean, that's
so that's why I like it, because it's very high, it's inflated, and it's a sharp fade. If you decide to fade only one guy, this could be the guy to fade in GPPs. Could be.
I agree. Couldn't agree more, Matt.
All right, moving on.
Let's move on to interesting fight as well. Zara Ferran dos Santos versus Josiane Nunes, or Josiane Nunes. You don't see it every day, but this fight actually has an even finish chance between two women fighters. Pretty rare, Matt. I mean, usually even the best finish chance women's fights, they end up sitting around plus 150 or something. So this is pretty wild. It's for good reason too. Both these ladies have big knockout power. They smash. Dos Santos has been put away in both of her UFC fights, which also bodes well for a finish. I think this fight is targetable both sides, Matt. I'm a little more interested in Nunes as the favorite. She has a little more knockout power, has had good success outside the UFC, with her only career loss being to Taila Santos back in 2013. And we've seen Taila Santos in the UFC do pretty well. I think Dos Santos in this fight has the power to do some damage, but let's mark her yellow and Nunes green for this one, Matt, because I do like the favorite a little more.
Okay. Nunes, 27.6% ownership, still below that cusp of GBP/cash. And then is it Farn?
Yep.
15 point.
She's got 12 names.
Yeah, it's nothing like that on Fantasy Cruncher. I was so confused. I was like, did she get replaced? 15.3%.
It happens like that all the time. They just like dumb it down to like, if someone have 12 names, they'll be like Tom.
Well, it literally is Zara Farn. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
I was like, okay. All right, moving on.
Next we have Bartosz Fabinski versus Gerald Meerschaert.
I'm sorry, Meerschaert. Has he? I feel like we see his name every other slate. I don't know why. Maybe it's just such a unique name.
It's so funny because I was looking too, dude.
Let's see. When was his last fight?
This pissed me off because I thought I'm gonna look this up again because I thought we saw him a couple more times than
And it's four times in the past.
So yeah, I was looking. Like I know we talked about Gerald Meerschaert.
Maybe it just sticks with me.
Well, the thing is, I looked at his last fight, and I was like, obviously, I remember the Heinisch fight and the Hamzat fight, and I was like, okay, but he fought a couple times after that, and I was like looking, and he didn't, and I was like, he must have pulled out of fights or something, because I'm trying to look right now. I mean, this was before that one. Yeah, he had to pull out with Ed Herman because of COVID. He had to pull because I was like, we definitely have talked about him far more times than he's fought, which is crazy. But anyway, we all know that. Speaking of Meerschaert, his like I said, his last two fights, Heinisch and Hamzat, bro. Like one, you got knocked out in a minute. Next, it was like, all right, I can't go worse than that. Next was 17 seconds. It's like, so that was tough. But that being said, I do think he's always live. The man is a true specialist and is a finisher and a wizard on the ground. 5 of his 6 UFC fights have come by way of submission, and then his one fight that didn't, or his UFC wins have come by way of submission, and the one that didn't was a knockout. So he's a really good finisher. Super live. Not to mention the fact that 3 of Fabinski's losses have come by way of submission as well. So good matchup for him. What makes this fight even better is the fact that Gerald Meerschaert himself is just the biggest glass cannon, and we've seen gets knocked out quite frequently and gets submitted actually a ton too. He's one of those guys. I always find it interesting because like, I was a wrestler, did jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And I always think it's so weird how these guys, like, I get glass cannons on their feet, like you're swinging for the fences and you get knocked out. glass cannons in jiu-jitsu in like grappling is weird to me. When you have like 15 submission wins and 10 submission losses, I'm like, don't you get pretty good at defending this stuff?
Yeah, that's all
I
you
don't know.
do.
Yeah, you know, as you get that level of being that proficient in grappling, I mean, maybe they're just overextending that much for the finish and they get caught. It's weird to me. I always found that very interesting. But obviously he's a great grappler, and I think you know, Fabinsky isn't the best finisher in the world, but due to his dance partner, this fight will make my love list because good pricing. Actually, no, really good pricing.
Yeah.
And then you know, obvious path to victory and a finish for both guys.
This to me looks like the first make or break, Kevin. 8,300 and 7,900. They don't know what to do. At least the public doesn't know what to do with this price tag on either one of these guys. 28% for Fabinsky, and then Mearshart at 24.4%. So still in that GPP range. It looks like people are picking both sides, more of a coin toss. And this is one of the fights. If you pick it wrong in your single entry, it will probably break you.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Looks like it, and that's assuming that it does finish. The finish chance is pretty high, right?
Yep.
Okay.
It's minus 115, but I think it's actually higher than that.
Okay, that's even more of a make or break then.
100%. Because I was like, I think it's, I'm telling you, it's just because Fabinsky is not the best finisher in the world, but I'm like, you can't just look at that.
Yeah.
Mearshart is, and Mearshart also gets finished. So,
all right.
I definitely think.
Oh, wait, you want me to green light this, right? Or no?
Yes,
okay.
Certainly.
All right.
That's going to be lovely on both sides. Moving on, we got Jessica Panay versus Lupita Godinez. Lots of red flags on this one, Matt. I told you the upscale pricing on this is tough. I'll touch on it real quick. Not going to spend too much time here. Jessica Panay has had a miserable UFC career, 3 losses in a row of her 4 UFC fights. That said, 2 of those were to Jessica Andrade and Joanna. So, I mean, give her some asterisks there because that's ridiculous. That's like losing in a one-on-one in basketball to LeBron and Jordan. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
okay, well,
doesn't
maybe
take
not
much.
that bad. But it's, you know, it's pretty, those are pretty 2 top tier people. But yeah, I don't, that doesn't mean too much to me, but I don't have too much interest in her. She hasn't fought in 4 years, Matt. So it's like, geez, like, do I really care that much about someone who does have a lot of losses and hasn't fought in 4 years? I don't know what to expect from her. Lupita Godinez, on the other hand, 9.2K, has never fought in the UFC, has an 80% decision rate. So do you want to pay $9,200 for someone who's probably going to get a decision, hasn't fought in the UFC yet? Not saying she can't come out and break the slate, absolutely possible. But if I'm limiting my player pool, Matt, this isn't a bad place to start.
Okay.
So yellow, red, take that how you wanna. Gotta limit your player.
How do you pronounce her first name?
Lupita.
Wow, it says Loopy on Fantasy Cruncher. Is that her nickname or something? It's just literally Loopy. That's why I was like, again, I was just like, are they really shortening that much?
It is her nickname.
Okay, so Loopy, yeah. I'm going to call her Loopy. 29% ownership, Kevin, which is still below that cusp, but that's a bit high, though, for somebody you just talked down a lot. And then Panay at 11.4% ownership.
Yeah, I'd rather almost take Panay and hope. I mean, not that Godinez can't do it.
Right.
I don't know a lot about her volume, I'll be honest. Haven't seen her fight in the UFC. Like I said, she wasn't even fighting in like super big organizations outside of that. Wasn't Invicta, wasn't, you know, it was just, for me, it's kind of like, you're really taking a dart on her.
You want me to red light this one altogether?
Sure.
All right, gotta make her stand somewhere. But we do.
Yeah, let's do it. Moving on. Absolutely not a red light. Alexander Romanov versus Juan Espino. Dude, I love this friggin' fight.
The ownership on both sides look like this is the main event, honestly.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. 2 awesome grapplers, talented heavyweights. I wish the pricing was a little closer so I could just like kind of even up a little bit here, but it's okay. I still want a ton of both sides. I do see huge slate breaking potential for both guys. I'll tell you why. Romanov has the potential, all the potential in the world, to be the highest scorer on the slate.
Absolutely.
With his takedowns and ability. He's 13-0, 13 finishes, and scores phenomenal. Can run takedown clinics, puts a lot of pressure on him. And Espino's tough to put away, so that might actually help him if he just puts a takedown clinic on and just, you know, lights him up. Espino at 9,400 is tough to beat, and maybe the best pure jiu-jitsu practitioner at the heavyweight division. So, you know, he has a 70% submission rate and can catch anyone. We saw him on Tough. We saw him on. He's great, man. He's a great punt, and I think you know, maybe Romanov takes him down and he catches him. I don't know. I really don't know how this is going to go, but I'm probably going to go 100% on this and hope it doesn't turn into a slow-paced affair. Only way I could see it happening is if, you know, they gas out a little bit. It is heavyweight. or they go to the ground and neutralize each other a little bit, and they just kind of chill there. But this has a lot of high scoring potential as well, Matt.
Espino. This is where people are paying down, Kevin. This is the third highest owned guy on the slate, and I get it because of the price tag and everything you just said. It's more of like a toss up, and when it's that close, you're going to be paying down, as we've talked about many, many times on these breakdowns. So 42.5% ownership, and then Ramonov 34.6, so still very high. Both make that cash range.
It almost made me happier when I wanted the pricing closer because I am an Espino fan and I do think he has a real chance in this. So I wanted to be able to divvy this a little bit, so I didn't want to have to keep paying up for Romanov. But I also thought to myself, Romanov being that pricey might help the ownership a little bit.
Absolutely will.
It was 8,300 and 7,900. You might be looking at a much closer ownership line here, but because it's not, I like Romanov more. I do. Right. I will say that he's got better wrestling, better stand up, and he's just looks like he's friggin' hot right now.
Sure.
He's crushing people,
and hence why he's the favorite. If you guys want the edge, just go heavier on the favorite in this fight, which is pretty crazy to say.
Yep. And where there's not a lot of, like I said, not a lot of good pay up options, 8,800 equals a pay up option.
Yeah, and a very good scoring one at that.
Yep, 100%. So big fan of this fight. 2 level listers for sure.
Awesome.
Moving on, we have Tracy Cortez versus Justine Kish. I'm all set with Cortez. Thank you very much. It's a similar situation to Godinez. She might be even a worse finisher than Godinez. I don't know. I've been loving a lot of women's fights lately, Matt. We talked about Dern last fight. Even the one with who we talked about, Dos Santos or Farron, whatever, and Nunes. But this one is just another snooze fest. I think that could be a dud. Plus 240 finish chance. Cortez has decent wrestling, but her volume after that is so low that I don't even think it matters if she racks up 4 takedowns in this fight. I still don't think she hits her price point. The new scoring has helped a lot of women's fights, but I don't think it's going to help this one because Cortez, like I said, it's just she doesn't have the volume. Kish is a miserable finisher as well, who's 1-3 in her last 4 fights. So it's like, do I think she's going to actually win? I'm just going to double red this and pray, Matt, that out of Cortez, Kish, Panay, and Godinez, that none of these girls make the optimal.
And I'll tell you what, the casuals are looking at these 2 fights, the 2 fights that you were just referencing, the 2 women's fights, and they're looking at the pricing, and they're near the same in terms of Vegas odds. And because of that, they're paying down, and not that much, only $200 to somebody like Cortez, who could potentially get just as much, upside there with scoring. 31.1% is actually pretty high. So that makes the cash list, and that's exactly what I said. She's just easier to fit into all of your builds, hence the reason why she's 31.1%. And then Kish 12.2, so virtually unowned there.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'm good.
Yeah. So another sharp fade there in GBPs.
Yep, for sure. Moving on, Ramos Algeo, not happening. I don't believe. Luis Pena versus Alex Munoz. This is an interesting fight, Matt. I will mark both sides green off the rip for a couple reasons. I see a path to victory for Luis for sure. He has good submissions, and you know that Munoz is going to try to take him down. I wasn't impressed with Munoz's gas tank in his UFC debut. It was versus Nasrat Hakparast. I did like his first couple of bursts of wrestling, though, and I know he has an elite wrestling background, so I think he's going to be able to take Luis Pena down. I know Luis Pena comes from AKA. He's wrestling Khabib, all these really good guys over there. DC, all the real big wrestling camp, Crutchmer. But, I just think, I just got a feeling, as I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, damn, AK's got some wrestlers, man. Crutchmer, Sean Bunch, Islam, they got some wrestlers. So I'm sure Luis Pena's takedown defense is pretty damn good. That being said, I do think, I don't know. This is interesting. I think Munoz is going to be able to take him down, but it's like, what happens? There's a lot of variables, hence why I think this is green. It could be a high score affair. I mean, Pena's look pretty shitty sometimes, man. I don't like the way he looked in was it the Kama Worthy fight? I think he looked pretty awful. Is that the one where he got submitted, right?
He scored 52 in that one, but yeah, he got submitted.
I mean, getting submitted to Kama Worthy though is just like, bro, I don't know. That one doesn't like.
And he's been on a bit of a cold streak, it looks like.
Yeah, and he's got some decisions in his arsenal too.
And he was a favorite in all those. Wow.
Yeah, he's usually a favorite. I mean, he shows a lot of promise. He's a long dude at the weight class. He's tough to get to. So Munoz might have trouble with that. But I mean, I think Munoz is a lot stronger. So this is going to be interesting. But I do think it's live. Because there's so many variables to this one. I feel a little more confident
And the pricing gets it a lot of love too. I mean, $8,700 and then Munoz for 75. Like if he wins, he's going to make optimal. And then Pena, $8,700 is almost hard not to make the optimal. Assuming you do anything.
Yeah, and the pricing is not such where like that's the other thing too. Like it's not like you're spending $9,400 on him, and it's like okay, if he does terrible and wins and gets 80 points, you're gonna be like, damn it, I hate this dude. Like if he gets 87, if he gets 80 points at 8,700, you're like, whatever. Like it sucks. You're not gonna win. You're
a mid-range guy.
You're not gonna take down a contest, but you could still make a lot of money that night.
It could potentially be one of the highest scoring, especially with the two women's fights here on the slate too.
Yeah, you never know.
So that being said, Kevin, you're going to love the ownership. 25.8% on Pena and then 15.8 on Munoz. Those are very low ownerships and very, very GPP worthy.
Yeah, I think Munoz has a chance. I mean, I thought he did in the Hack Paras fight. He was very cheap, and he was 6-0 heading into that fight in other organizations, I believe. And I know I run a little bit wrestling bias here, but I swear it's not because I'm a wrestling coach. It's just because wrestlers break slates. It's just they can. It's just the way MMA
especially with DraftKings scoring
all the time, especially with DraftKings scoring, man. Especially with the new addition of control time, especially with the new addition of all strikes counting and scoring, not just 6 strikes. So they can really break the slate, and you don't want to be on the wrong side of that. I said that with the Deron Wynn fight. I remember when he was cheap, I was like, take him. He got something friggin' stupid in Deron Wynn's fight. He got like 13 takedowns or something. And I was like, yeah, it happens. Like, and if you can't stop them, sometimes you can't stop them. They just keep going and going and going. Especially when you got these wrestlers like Munoz who might not be able to put you away with submissions, so he has to just keep taking you down, putting the pace on you. But yeah, I think it's a good fight, and I do think Luis Pena might be able to catch him to submission though if he does get too overextended.
Sounds good.
Moving on. Yep. Moving on, we got Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Jacob Malkoun. Do I believe in Abdul's ability to knock people out cold? 100%. Can knock out a horse? Yes. Do I believe in his ability to win fights? Not necessarily. He's a strong knockout artist, like I said, but I was pretty unimpressed in his last 2 fights, and coming off a 30-second knockout loss is a little scary as well. Malkoun is also coming off a brutally quick loss in the UFC during his debut, but it's still hard to tell exactly where his talent level is at because of that. He was undefeated before that, which is like the worst kind of sample size. Like, hey, I was undefeated, got knocked out in 30 seconds. Okay, I don't know what to make of that. This is tough. I think you can mark both green mat. They're looking at a -265 finish chance. It's just there's too stupid of a finish chance. As far as love list, I'm not going to touch it. You can swing for either guy and hope. I'll have decent exposure though. I will have decent exposure though, and I think you should too. And yeah, I don't know, man. This is a weird one. This is definitely one of the weirder ones on the slate. It's like I don't know. I really don't know.
Given the other options in the 9K range, this explains Al Hassan's ownership 38%, which I believe is the 4th highest on the card.
Yep.
So pretty good ownership there. Malkoun will absolutely break the slate open. I believe you'll love this. 11.5% ownership. I mean, Vegas is giving him a 30% chance to win. That's no joke. Like 30% is right there. I mean, imagine guys spinning a spinner, 30% chance of the pies. Not impossible. 15.5% ownership is just way too low, especially given that that finish chance and the pricing, $6,900. That's just crazy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Matt, like it's I think a lot of people are going to be looking at this like what to do with it too, because like I am. I mean, I told you, man, during these breakdowns, I mean, if I cover 13 fights pretty in depth, you know, I'm going to give myself one mulligan of just, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't even talk on it too much. This is it. Yeah. Which usually ends up in being a shit show where it's just awful or amazing. Right. You know what I mean? Because it's such a variable, like, or such a, like, there's so many variables and it's such just a volatile fight. Like, you don't know what's going to happen.
And here's another perspective too. What I do is I look at the ownership, and that usually dictates what I'm going to do specific on fights where I don't know what's going to go on. The ownership is less than half of the ownership in general. So they're showing 50% combined total for these guys. Like, all you could do to get contrarian is go 100% on this fight because of the finish ability. Yeah, one of these guys wins, and you're like, oh, I'm sitting pretty. Look at that. Because I
was thinking about that, Matt. Something like that. Like, even though it's the weirdest pricing in the world for this, and like, it's like, yeah, just go 100%. Just
because one of these guys should be in the optimal, right? Yeah. If Al-Hassan wins and finishes, which he should, I mean, even $9,300 with those guys in the price range, assuming there's other upsets on the card, optimal, 100%.
Yeah, especially where you like consider, so one fight's off, it's 12 fights late now, and now say, I'm not, again, not a guarantee, but knock out those 2 red lights we didn't like in those women fights.
It's 10,
and then that's 10 left. So you know, odds
do the
aren't
math.
Too bad. Do the maths. But moving on, we got Andre Arlovsky versus Chase Sherman. This fight will be a love lister on the slate, and the slate doesn't have a ton of love listers. I think there's some good fights, but it's tough to pick ones I really love. Arlovsky tends to slow fights down now in his old age, but he still carries tremendous power. Sherman has been knocked out in 4 of his 6 losses, so Arlovsky could definitely get back to his old ways and very easily in this one with a big-time KO. I will say, I do see a potential for Sherman putting Arlovsky away just as early. Sherman, I think he's a good football player too, maybe like a high-level college football player guy. Really good athlete. He had a fair bit of UFC experience, was cut in 2018, brought back 2020 with a knockout win over Isaac Villanueva. I don't think Chase is the best fighter in the world. Like I said, really good athlete, elite athlete, and power like you read about. I think he's got like 14 knockouts out of his 15 wins or something. So this is a plus 105, and I get it a little bit. I get that Arlovsky slows fights down, but also Chase Sherman's kind of a glass cannon. So I think this one makes love list, especially at that pricing.
Well, you'll love the ownership then, 15.2% on Arlovsky, which is $8,500. So looks like the spin down option here is going to carry more ownership with Sherman, $7,700 for 23.1% ownership. Wow, a lot of leverage potential here for Arlovsky.
Yeah, tons. I mean, I get it. Arlovsky is he's old, doesn't finish really anymore. But this is a good dance partner for him to get back on track. I totally get it. I pass on Arlovsky. Maybe at one point was my favorite fighter of all time. I loved him when I was a kid. But he's been around for so friggin' long. But it might not be the it might be a better dance partner for him right now. Right. Like I said, Chase Sherman's a glass cannon. So I think someone gets knocked out.
Makes sense to me. And it looks like another make or break fight. I think it's the second one here on the slate that's going to be make or break. More of a coin toss, 45% chance for Sherman. So
love it. Absolutely love it.
Right.
Moving on, we have Jeremy Stephens versus Drakkar Klose. Big time yellow fight here. I do like Stephens more, who comes in as the favorite. I like his pace and finish ability a lot more than Klose's. Klose can get to his wrestling, but has never cleared 100 sig strikes in a single fight, which is crazy. Obviously not good. Also worse considering how bad he is at finishing fights, Matt. So I don't really see a lot of paths where he scores great. I do see his wrestling could mark him yellow, but instead of red, like it's more yellow to red. If he puts it on him in wrestling, I just don't have a lot of faith in Klose. He's not traditionally a good scorer at all.
Yeah.
Stephens a little more yellowish to green because I think he has that power. And I don't know. This is another weird one where I saw it in the card. I remember looking at the card when I first checked out, and I was like, this one perplexed me a little bit. I was like, this is gonna be a weird one.
The decision's very high here. Decision percentage is super high. It's over. Yeah. What's the finish, or what's the finish chance here?
Mine's is plus 110.
But yeah, okay, that's what I see.
I think that's all due to the fact that Jeremy Stephens has hands. That's about it as the favorite. But I don't know. I'll probably take a bit of Stephens, but not too much, and at most a couple pieces of Klose here, Matt.
All right, 20.6% on Stephens and Klose 22. So it looks like the public is agreeing with you, Kevin.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, I don't want to touch that one too much, but you might not want to just full fade. Moving to the main event, Robert Whitaker versus Kelvin Gaslum. Whitaker, comical. This is crazy, Matt. Whitaker has won 11 of his last 12 UFC fights. So let that sink in. That is a
good streak.
Wow. And
what's his one loss to? I already know the answer because I'm looking at it.
Yeah, Izzy.
Yep.
So Israel Adesanya. So I love Kelvin. I think he's for sure a gamer. But that is a scary stat I just read. Usually I would give someone like Kelvin a chance in any fight. And it's not that I'm not giving him a chance. I actually think this fight is stackable in cash, Matt. I could very easily see this one going to this.
Give me the answer before I already ask. Got it.
Yep. We haven't done that in a while. And I think this one has that potential. I say this because, gun to my head, I think Whitaker wins a decision and Gaslum is tough to put away and near impossible to knock out. If Izzy couldn't do it, I don't know if Whitaker can. Yeah. Gaslum has also lost 2 5-rounders that went the distance in his career, and in both he scored pretty damn well. So I think that Whitaker is live in all formats, and I think Kelvin is live in cash more so. I do think Kelvin, you can throw him in a GPP and hope, and it's never a bad idea for a 5-rounder to take the punt.
7,100. I got to interject here real quick. They got to price these guys right. I mean, $7,100. He will easily make the optimal because it's a 5-rounder, regardless if he's just staring at him. Like for 5 rounds, it's so hard to not make the optimal.
100%. So especially on a slate like this, I mean, I definitely think, it's just I do think, and I'm surprised I'm saying this, but I do think Whitaker is just too hot right now. He's too tall of a task, and I was very impressed in his fights with Till and Cannonier recently. So I do think that Whitaker is going to be a tough task for him, though, and I'm going to take Whitaker a lot more.
All right, Whitaker makes perfect sense. He's the highest owned guy on the slate at 48.1%. Gaslum, 30.1, so 7th highest on the slate, Kevin. Right outside of that cash range, but I think the ownership's pretty high on them. Will certainly be enough to stack in cash, and I completely agree with everything you just said. The price tag is just way too low. So if you stack this and Gaslum happens to win, you're easily cashing in all double ups just because of the inflation there with Whitaker. So very straightforward there. Kevin, do we want to go through our core punts and GBP options?
Bring it home. So core plays and fights, I said Whitaker, going to carry a ton of ownership and is so damn tough to beat, especially in a 5-rounder. GPP plays, Fabinski and Mearshart, solid finish potential and best overall pricing on the card. Also see an obvious path to a finish for both guys. Mearshart being glass cannon really drives that home. Romanov can break the slate with his wrestling and should get a finish if he does win. Arlovsky and Sherman, great pricing, and both guys carry huge power. I think this one ends in a finish despite the Vegas line. And punts, I have Espino, elite grappler with a real win chance and a real finish chance at punt money, which is interesting because that's probably the least amount of GPPs and punts I've had. I greenlighted a lot, but I'm not going to put it on my love list if I don't believe it.
Right.
So.
There's ones that you love and there's ones that you just don't know what's going to happen. So.
Yep. I told you, it's a weird card. Card. I mean, I can't remember even on a 12. This is a 12-fight slate. It's not a small slate. I can't remember last time I only had 3 people on my love list, not counting punts.
But keep in mind, we're in COVID time, so it could end up being a 10-fight slate. So get ready, boys.
Very true.
All right, guys. If you haven't signed up for Patreon, first of all, $20 a month gets you access to everything, including our ownership projections. Guys, I hate to break it to you, but MLB is going on, NBA is still going on. We got CS:GO, we got League of Legends, we got all the major sports going on, including MMA. So $20 a month gets you access to all that and so much more. Premium Discord chat. If you guys did enjoy all this content, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future MMA content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day and let's cash.